Everything begins with a village in an uproar over something. Soon, they gather at a family's house, where the lady of the house learns that they are there because Imo has caused a lot of trouble. Meanwhile, the protagonist, Imo, is running through the forest to hunt a furry creature. At home, his family has to pay for the things he's broken. However, not all is bad, as Imo manages to catch the furry creature, which will help save on dinner. However, the creature gets up, furious, and is about to attack Imo when a man with long hair appears and saves him. At this moment, the protagonist mentions that the creature was his prey to offer to the gods and asks for compensation for taking it. The long-haired man gets angry, while an old man gives him money and mentions they are there to find Mo's family. The protagonist says he belongs to that family and will provide more information if they give him the horse. In the end, there is no deal, and everyone goes their separate ways. Imo asks them not to kill creatures nearby since they are protected by spirits. As Imo leaves, they say that he must indeed be part of that family. Later, we see Imo being taken care of at home by his sisters, who were previously paying for the damages. They talk a bit about the hunt and Mo's encounter with those strange people. Imo then receives a letter from his older brother, telling him to take care of the family in his absence. Imo claims that studying is not his style and mentions that his older brother is not a good example, as he left his wife to embark on a mysterious journey. After contemplating a few things, Imo looks at the sky and notices a shooting star. Next, we see a girl from the present day receiving a call from her colleague, who tells her that during the excavation, they found something incredible and asks her to come and see. She gets dressed and goes to the site, where she discovers that they have found terracotta warriors from the Qin dynasty, thousands of years old. Returning to the past, during the Qin dynasty, we see that the protagonist house is visited by soldiers. When they go outside to check, it is revealed that the soldiers have orders to take Mo's brother's wife. She accepts her fate, but tells Imo to take care of the house, and that she will return as soon as possible. When Imo is left alone with his sister, she tells him they should go back inside, but he ignores her and runs to find his sister-in-law. He catches up with him and starts fighting wildly, showing he is part of the Imo family, which means he is strong. However, Imo is eventually overpowered, and the leader of the soldiers reminds him that attacking a soldier is a serious crime. The commander decides to spare him and take him with him upon discovering he is part of the Imo family. Meanwhile, the previous figures, the old man and the long-haired man, watch from a distance and comment that they arrived a bit late. The young man wants to take action, but the old man says that the fate of the Imo family seems to be following its course, so they should not interfere. The next day, the protagonist apologizes to his sister-in-law, but she tells him not to worry. They arrive at a place full of slaves, who are marked with burning brands on their skin for identification. As expected, a high-ranking official of the dynasty appears to be leading the operation. It is soon revealed that this official is none other than the emperor, who is frantically searching for the elixir of immortality. He finds something similar, which is men present to him in a box. However, the sovereign's expression changes when he learns that the liquid will only extend his life by 1,000 years, which is not enough for him. In a fit of rage, he brutally eliminates the men when he discovers they also want to live those 1,000 years. The emperor then throws away the elixir and sets out to find one that will make him live forever in the truest sense of the word. As the emperor curses everything, Mo's brother, Tai, appears, affected by the scene, but ultimately fulfilling his goal, which is to tell the emperor that he has the elixir. Subsequently, the protagonist arrives at the palace, where he sees several golden statues. His sister-in-law advises him to be calm and not impulsive, which he promises to do. Once inside the palace, Tai is quickly found. Tai's wife speaks to him, and they approach him. The young man with white hair appears scared and confused. At this moment, the emperor appears, looking in poor health. Tai realizes what is about to happen and asks the sovereign to have mercy on his family, stating that he will take the punishment. It is revealed that the emperor is angry because he cannot be certain if the elixir Tai gave him works. Therefore, he wants to use Tai as a test subject to verify it and tells him to drink a new elixir, which could be deadly. Returning to the present, the girl talks with her colleague about the statues. He then shows her another find, a well-preserved armor. As she examines the object closely, she is surprised when it seems to return her gaze, but dismisses it as her imagination. She soon realizes that her friend is missing, and she searches for him, becoming frightened when the lights go out and the statues seem to emit an aura of danger. She begins to run instinctively. Meanwhile, the emperor asks Mo's brother's wife to try the elixir. She is about to do so when the protagonist intervenes, not wanting to risk her life. He knocks her out and decides to try the elixir himself, presenting himself to the emperor in the process. However, the emperor's guards appear in an instant to subdue him. Mo's brother then pleads for mercy. The emperor agrees to Mo's proposal, stating that if he dies, the protagonist's village will be annihilated, and he, the protagonist, will be turned into a statue and buried with the emperor. Mo accepts the terms. Back in the present, the girl encounters a man with a strange appearance who is excited to see the armor and reveals himself to be an ancient treasure hunter, although she views him as a tomb raider. He attempts to eliminate her, but she defends herself and escapes with the ancient helmet. Later, she finds her colleague, who is unconscious, and continues to flee. Along the way, she encounters a monkey belonging to the ancient treasure hunter. She is soon cornered and attacked, but fortunately, none of the hunter's mystical attacks hit her. Instead, the man destroys all the terracotta statues. Well, not all of them, some. The hunter then demands the ancient helmet, and when she throws it away, he becomes enraged and prepares to eliminate her. However, his attack is halted when it collides with a statue that does not break like the others. It is revealed that the statue is Mo, who breaks free from the rocks and knocks the villain away. Mo then looks at the girl, whose name is Hong. The protagonist tries to speak, but finds he can't get any words out, while the woman is frightened. Mo then has flashbacks of his past, where his brother gave him a family heirloom and told him he would be turned into a statue. Following this, Mo drinks the elixir of immortality and is sealed, hearing that time will pass very quickly for him and that he will see it again when he opens his eyes. Later, the girl realizes that Mo is not a zombie but a human. At the same time, the treasure hunter appears, wanting to test the young man's immortality. He attacks Mo with his mystical powers, leading to a clash where the villain praises Mo for having cultivation qualities. Soon, some guards arrive, so the villain grabs his monkey and the ancient helmet and leaves. Meanwhile, Hong prepares to leave with the guards, but Mo stops her and calls her sister-in-law, as she looks very similar to his own sister-in-law. The two then go to the police station, where Hong is considered a suspect in the incident. She tries to explain what happened and learns that her colleague is out of danger. The officer then mentions her brother-in-law, which confuses her, as Mo looks nothing like her brother-in-law. Meanwhile, a few meters away in another part of the station, Mo devours all the food like a glutton, surprising the officers with his veracity. Hong says she doesn't know him, but the officer writes him down as her brother-in-law. When she explains exactly what happened, including the mystical aspects, the officer doesn't believe her and just notes that Mo scared off the villain with a single punch. Hong gets upset, reiterating that Mo is not her brother-in-law and that he came out of a statue. Meanwhile, Mo listens from a distance while eating. Both are eventually released from the station, and Hong thanks Mo for his help but decides to leave to avoid trouble. She tries to escape when he continues to follow her and manages to lose him. However, Mo locates her after encountering a large city, and to avoid traffic and reach Hong faster, he walks over cars, arriving at the taxi she was in. Hong tells the taxi driver to start driving, so Mo instinctively grabs the car and breaks a door with ease. They end up back at the police station, where the officer questions Mo about his true relationship with Hong. This upsets Hong, and she gets even more frustrated when she finds out that Mo has been listed in her records as related to her. The girl's lawyer, who represents her family, then arrives. Hong is released, and the suited man asks her to get into his luxury car, but she decides to go on her own. Mo is locked up until a relative comes to fetch him, and soon he encounters several thugs who comment on his clothes and notice his family heirloom. One of them tries to take it, and Mo responds by knocking him against the wall, which prompts the other prisoners to start a fight. Meanwhile, Hong arrives home and sits on her couch to rest. Back in the prison, Mo has beaten up the thugs, who now fear him and are willing to help him find his supposed sister-in-law. He asks when they can leave, and they tell him it won't be possible. This motivates Mo to use his cultivation powers to break through the walls, frightening his fellow inmates even more, who call him a monster. At the same time, Hong goes through her routine at home, unable to stop thinking about Imo. He searches for her on the streets, while the prisoners report the incident to the police. After a while, Hong calls the station to inquire about Imo. When she doesn't get a response, she decides to go look for him but finds it is raining. Just as she is about to get an umbrella, she encounters the protagonist, who collapses on her shoulder. Imo then dreams of meeting his sister-in-law and, noticing he has a fever, pours water on him repeatedly. He wakes up realizing that Hong took care of him. Imo then searches for Hong, breaking the clock in the process, and after searching several places, he ends up in Hong's bathroom, finding her without clothes as she is taking a shower. She screams in surprise. Hong scolds Imo in the kitchen, telling him she's not his sister-in-law because she has no children and is young. She then asks how he found her, to which Imo replies it was due to her sin. Hong tells him he's not a dog and mentions that if he hadn't saved her in the ruins, she wouldn't have helped him. She then says she's going to work and asks Mo to leave. However, she decides to take him to a store to buy him more modern clothes. Afterward, Hong goes to work, telling Mo to call her by her name and refer to her as sister or something similar. Mo is left in the city, while Hong goes to work as an actress in a period film. She is required to perform an action scene where she must face ninjas and be executed, but the rope she's supposed to use snaps, putting her in danger. The ninjas, who are also actors, continue their roles, and Imo appears to defeat them and prevent Hong from getting hurt. The director gets angry at Imo, while Imo believes the director is the leader of the ninjas. Hong tries to explain the misunderstanding. Amidst the director's fury, he sees something that calms him, the scene where Imo intervened. He then approaches Imo to offer him a role in the film. Later that night, the two discuss the movie, and Hong asks if Imo has a place to stay, promising to find him one soon. Imo then recalls his brother's and sister-in-law's words. His brother had said they would meet again after he awoke, and his sister-in-law had asked him to take care of himself. Imo is startled by the sound of construction, which seems to be coming from all over the city. He realizes someone has broken into Hong's house, so he rushes to save her, leaping from a great height and landing on her balcony. When he arrives, he finds he is too late and encounters some rats attacking him. After defeating them, Imo finds a note from the previous villain, instructing him to meet him at an abandoned factory if he wants to rescue Hong. Meanwhile, at the factory, Hong is calling for help, but the villain tells her no one is nearby. He introduces himself as Hui, claiming to be a treasure hunter. Imo arrives, and Hui explains he needs Mo's help because he was sealed away millennia ago. Together, they could uncover the secrets of an ancient armor. However, Imo quickly overpowers Hui. Hui is surprised when his helper monkey transforms into a giant monster. Imo realizes that the creature is a spirit beast, and hears Hui say that if Imo loses, he'll keep the secrets in his head. The beast gains the upper hand initially, but Imo manages to injure it and smash it against the wall. Hui takes advantage of this to attack Imo from behind, wounding him and causing him to bleed. He explains that he poisoned Imo and knows he's a powerful cultivator. Hui then uses a flute to transform the giant monkey into a swarm of rats. Imo is attacked and tries to counter with his fire powers, but each rat he destroys regenerates, forcing him to dodge. Hui then reveals that the flute is called Hamelin and demands Imo surrender. Imo refuses and quickly destroys the flute. He frees himself from the swarm of rats and fiercely attacks Hui while noticing Hong is trapped and pleading for help with her eyes. Later, it's shown that the thug has been captured by the police, and the relic he kept has been confiscated. This is broadcasted on a news channel that Hong watches in her dressing room. Imo then appears and discusses the situation, but Hong silences him, cautioning him to be careful and asserting that the others must not know they were involved in the incident. Imo then tells her that the director is looking for her, so she heads there, while Imo reflects on what happened after defeating the thug. It's then revealed that Hui mentioned there were more ancient treasure hunters, meaning he won't be the only one they see, a comment that obviously worries Imo. As Imo grabs the girl's phone to take it, he accidentally encounters a girl changing, leading to a misunderstanding. Meanwhile, Hong runs into Tang, an actress who seems to have had a falling out with the director and leaves in a huff, not even acknowledging Hong's greeting. After this, the director calls Hong, while the protagonist is slapped by the girl who saw him peeping, accusing him of being a voyeur. The director tells Hong that the producer wants to see her, as they want to make her the lead in the film. At the same time, the protagonist speaks with a crew member who mentions Tang and also talks about the girl who slapped him. They then arrive at the prop storage, where the protagonist gets excited seeing all the replica weapons, and his colleague names each one. Later, Hong is surprised when told about the lead role, and after signing, the director receives a briefcase of money, which confuses Hong. She realizes her father bought the lead role for her, which upsets her, and she storms off, but the director reminds her that she signed a contract. Simultaneously, Tang learns that Hong got the lead role and becomes upset. The girl Imo saw changing then appears in Tang's costume but stumbles, prompting the famous actress to insult her and leave. Imo arrives to help, but Hong appears first and grabs him by the arm to leave. Seeing this, Hong's father attacks Imo, questioning who he is and landing a direct punch to his face. The confrontation ends when Hong decides to leave, and her father follows her. Meanwhile, the girl Imo saw dressing is extorted by a woman and later suffers the same fate at the hands of some loan sharks who want to have fun with her in a group. The protagonist arrives and scares off the men. However, she runs into a seemingly kind man who invites her to dinner but drugs her drink. Fortunately, she wakes up before anything happens and fights for her safety, ultimately accidentally killing the man. She then attempts to jump from a great height, but is stopped by a strange entity who tells her to go with the flow and not worry about killing the man. Using her powers, the entity helps the girl wake up in Tang's body. Hui is then seen being taken to the leaders of his organization, which finds ancient treasures. They tell him that he will be punished, but he convinces them otherwise, mentioning that he fought against a guy from the Qin dynasty who can help them find better treasures. With this in mind, the leader of the organization gives Hui a chance. At the same time, he asks his companion and right-hand man, Bai, what he thinks about this. Bai responds with indifference, prompting the mission to capture Imo to commence, noting that they will need the help of someone known as the producer. The protagonist is on set, observing a large number of people bringing equipment and other items. He soon inquires about it and learns that the producer is on the way. In the midst of this, Hong's father attacks him, but he dodges. He then reminds him that he was told to stay away from his daughter, and the argument ends quickly when Hong gets fed up and walks away, with her father following her. Later, while the protagonist is alone, he encounters Tang, the girl with short hair who jumped from a great height, who thanks him for helping her the other night. However, he is confused as the girl now has a different body. During this, someone arrives in a sports car, and all the girls on site are impressed by both the car and the appearance of the man. This is Ma, the guy, who asks for Tang. He approaches her and tries to kiss her, but the girl gets scared and hides behind Imo. Ma then wants to know more about the protagonist, so he is told that he is a stunt double in the film. Hong then appears and gives Tang a check to convince her to leave the lead role, but this is interrupted by Hong's father, who reminds her that he had lent money to Ma's family a while ago, so the check is part of the interest on that substantial loan. They then start competing to see who has more expensive things, and after discussing the topic a bit, Ma decides to leave. To provoke him, Hong's father calls his horse to crush Ma's car. Hong wants to know what this is about and learns that it is due to a rivalry between families. The scene then shifts to the filming location for Hong's movie, which is now in an empty lot purchased by Hong's father. The director praises the site, but then falls into a pit, prompting everyone to rush to rescue him. Meanwhile, Tang becomes frightened and seeks refuge with Imo. Later, back at her home, Hong studies the script and is intrigued by the plot. The protagonist arrives and questions her about it, leading her to complain about the movie's storyline, which involves time travel. This makes her ask Imo what it feels like to travel through millennia. Imo can't give a precise answer but mentions that he felt lonely, adding that she helped ease that loneliness. Hong then asks if he really resembles her sister-in-law so much, to which Imo confirms, showing her a simple drawing he made himself. She then asks where he knows Tang from, but before he can answer, someone knocks on the door. Hong opens it and is surprised to see her colleague, the one who fainted at the terracotta soldier's tomb. After a while, they fill him in on everything about Imo, and he discovers that his village was destroyed at the king's request, which obviously upsets him. The scene then shifts to the past, where Mo's brother allies with a rival king, King Xiong. In ancient times, what would be known as China was divided into several warring kingdoms, with battles lasting for centuries. Tai allies with Xiong because the king of Qin destroyed his village and turned the protagonist into a statue. Together, they aim to defeat the Qin emperor. They set out to find an ancient tomb to see if there is anything useful inside. However, upon opening it, they encounter many zombie soldiers who attack Tai's allied troops. They are soon subdued with the help of giant boulders launched from catapults and a rain of flaming arrows, which eliminate the zombie soldiers. To Xiang's surprise, a light emerges from the tomb's door, illuminating the sky. Xiang is greatly excited, but asserts that the light is not making the path easy. King Xiang then decides to seal the tomb with a large arrow and a huge bow. After doing this, he prepares to continue his battle, taking his army to fight against the emperor. Back in the present, Imo realizes that all his family members were brutally annihilated, and that he is the only one who consumed the elixir of immortality. Hong's friend tells him that everything related to the protagonist is special, noting that even in the tomb there was an armor that the thugs wanted to steal. He then shows him a photo of the armor on his phone, pointing out that it had unreadable inscriptions, which Imo can decipher. During the filming, the protagonist becomes too immersed in his role and injures someone. This frightens everyone, causing the director to cut the scene and scold them, but he falls into the previous pit, prompting everyone to come to his aid. Meanwhile, Imo continues to ponder the symbols on the armor, focusing on one of a flower. Later, Tang, who is actually the girl with short hair in Tang's body, approaches Imo and gives him something to drink. She then talks with him for a while, asking if he is close to Hong. Imo replies that he is, mentioning that they live together, and he sleeps on her terrace with a nice view of the city. Hong receives a call from her assistant to continue the filming and exits her dressing room, seeing Imo talking to Tang. Following this, Ma, the earlier character, gets angry at the protagonist for spending time with Tang and prepares to give him a lesson. However, he is confronted by Hong's father, who suspects Ma of wanting to do inappropriate things with his daughter and sends his horses after him. After this, Hong's father receives a call and meets with the caller. They first discuss Hong, mentioning that he knows about her trouble with treasure hunters. Zhang, the caller, then mentions his own son, who disappeared during an archaeological expedition about 7 years ago. This angers the man, who attacks Zhang, who is the blonde guy. Zhang offers to help with the search. Meanwhile, Ma goes berserk because Hong's father is meddling with him and decides to deal with him. However, his allies advise against it, warning that Hong's father is a monster both financially and physically, always participating in conflicts directly and coming out victorious. Understanding this, Ma decides not to confront Hong's father and instead sends his goons to deal with Imo. Later in the day, Hong visits Imo on the terrace, discovering that he has customized it to his liking, even having his own small farm with poultry. She then goes into his tent but doesn't find him. However, she does find a diary that Imo has written. She reads about the time she taught him to read, as well as the filming and Hong's appearance, which leads her to remember seeing him with Tang. What catches her attention is a detailed analysis of the ruins where Imo was found, and she is surprised to learn that he has been exploring the site all this time. The scene shifts to the protagonist continuing his exploration of the site, while Hong arrives at the site worried about him. However, she is soon captured by someone, her father, who sternly tells her to leave, an attitude he has never shown before, which surprises her and makes her want to know what he is doing there. Later, Hong's friend appears and questions what is happening, noticing that he has a photo of the protagonist on his phone. Hong's father explains that they are there because of Feng, Hong's brother, who disappeared 7 years ago while exploring the ruins after seeing a light that illuminated the sky. Additionally, her friend claims to have seen everything. As expected, no one believed him, but the symbol he saw on the stone Feng touched before disappearing is something he can't forget. Amid this, it is revealed that the symbol is the same one that caught the protagonist's attention earlier, and he managed to locate it in the ruins. A flashback shows that Imo is connected to that symbol. At the same time, Ma contacts Tang and invites her out. Though she initially seems uninterested, he insists that she must accept, or else something bad will happen to Imo. This visibly disturbs her, causing her eyes to turn dark. Later, Hong's father explains that the goal was to use Imo to see if he could find something related to Feng's disappearance. As he discusses this, a large figure appears, someone from the ancient treasure hunter guild. Hong's father must fight this individual, while Hong goes in search of Imo. The protagonist is seen searching for his belongings in the ruins when he suddenly encounters Zhang. Meanwhile, Hong's father continues to battle the large man, who quickly shows signs of having supernatural powers. On the filming set, Ma arrives with his group and begins to destroy the site to force Imo out. Tang appears to stop them, ending up slapping Ma, who becomes very agitated and orders his henchmen to deal with her. Hong arrives at the ruins and encounters someone as the protagonist finishes performing his ritual and activates a mystical mechanism. It turns out that the person who restrained the girl is her companion, who advises her not to proceed further. Shortly after, Hui appears, ready to use his rats to capture them. Just then, Zhang reveals that he is on Hong's father's side. Everyone hears a sound and a voice, confirming that Mo has managed to open the treasure door. A great light then emerges from a structure, enveloping everyone present. Well, not everyone, but the most important people, including Tang and Ma. Unfortunately, Hong's friend is left behind and watches as his friend vanishes. The scene shifts to a place called Lu, where a plump old man remarks that it seems the visitors are about to arrive. Later on, we see the protagonist meeting with the man, who turns out to be the king of Lu, bearing the same name. Meanwhile, Hong is in the position of commander, which confuses her. It becomes evident that they have traveled to the past, to a time when the kingdoms of ancient China were becoming more violent and ruthlessly eliminating each other. After this, the protagonist travels with the others to a military camp, specifically one belonging to Xiang, whom Mo recognizes and notices has aged. Hong continues as commander, and when she sees Mo leaving the camp, she runs to greet him. Subsequently, a soldier asks Hong to come inside to stop a moment of violence. She does so and encounters her father, who was attacking everyone in search of her. He stops upon seeing her and embraces her, though Hong does not receive this well. Afterwards, King Xiang grants them permission to accompany him and asks his aide to provide them with some food. A man then approaches with some meat, and Hong recognizes him as Zhang, who also traveled there. Things soon become complicated again, and everything seems to restart. Mo meets the king of Lu again, the same portly figure as before, who introduces him to someone he believes to be his commander but is actually Tang, who is happy to see Mo. Meanwhile, Hong and her father talk with King Xiang, who has a brief altercation with Hong's father and then asserts that Lu must be eliminated. We realize that everyone has traveled to this specific time. The protagonist is on the side of the portly figure they want to eliminate, while Hong and the others are on the side of those who wish to execute him. Soon, a horde of soldiers prepares to eradicate Lu, but Mo saves him. Due to the chaos, King Xiang uses his strength to destroy the entire tent and defeat everyone in the process. Later, Hong's friend in the real world is visited by a man who explains that they were all sent into a treasure that repeats an event until it plays out as it should. Back in that place, the protagonist and Hong meet to discuss. They confirm that the event has repeated 5 times, each restarting after Lu's death. After this, they arrive at a tent where Hong's father reveals something unsettling. The man says that he is now Lu, so the group soon starts discussing what to do, as King Xiang wants him eradicated at all costs. In the midst of this, the protagonist mentions that he activated the ancient object with his jade treasure, surprising both father and daughter. They then devise a plan with the newly arrived Tang, all with the aim of preventing the death of Hong's father. After organizing the plan with Tang, the group soon meets with Xiang. Everything goes as planned until the truth is revealed, causing Hong and her father, who has taken Lu's place, to flee. At this point, Xiang draws his bow and shoots a lethal arrow. Mo throws himself in the way to protect them, but his body is pierced effortlessly and his jade shatters. However, this results in the destruction of the entire site. Mo then travels to another dimension filled with green stones, where he sees his brother. By touching the object, he is taken to another moment in history. He witnesses how his brother allied with Xiang to eradicate the king of Qin, driven by hatred after the loss of his people and younger brother, namely the protagonist. After witnessing many grim events, such as enemies being disposed of in a burning mass grave, Mo is transported back to the battlefield, this time on Lu's side again. Hong's father seems to have had better luck and ends up returning to the real world. Next, the protagonist realizes he is in the middle of a historic moment where several kingdoms are preparing to fight each other. As expected, Hong and the others, except for her father, are still there occupying the roles of key figures in the event. Things then become more complicated for Hong and Tang, as the commander of Lu's faction is Ma, who behaves tyrannically for a while, and later frees them to guide the army. They encounter King Xiang's army, who overwhelm Lu's group to the extent of damaging the war tower, with Xiang delivering the final blow. Ma jumps from the tower using an archaic parachute. However, Hong is not so fortunate and has to save herself as best she can, which worries the protagonist. At that moment, King Xiang captures her. When the group reunites, Tang punches Ma in the face for his stupidity, claiming that if he hadn't made his foolish mistakes, this wouldn't have happened. Subsequently, Imo begins to organize everything to lead Lu's army with the goal of rescuing Hong. Obviously, Ma goes crazy, reminding them that he was supposed to be the main commander. But when reminded of the mission's dangers, he decides to step down and withdraws, stating that they must defeat Xiang. At the same time, Hong's father meets with the leader of the Ancient Treasure Thieves Guild, a man named Mei, the same person who explained to Hong's friend about the relic that trapped her in a historic moment. Hong's father seeks Mei's help, which Mei is willing to provide, but he wants help in resolving an issue related to an ancient helmet. Meanwhile, the protagonist leads Lu's army and prepares to defeat his rivals, while Xiang meets with Hong, whom he refers to as Hong's concubine, meaning a companion of the protagonist. After this, Xiang reveals that it is not the first time they have met, explaining that he saw her through the helmet at the beginning of the story. She realizes that the eyes she saw were not a hallucination and is astonished to learn that everything in this place is controlled by him. Meanwhile, the protagonist and his group continue on the battlefield and soon encounter Xiang, who is searching for the protagonist. At the same time, in the real world, Hong's father receives help from the Ancient Treasure Thieves Guild and watches as Bai uses his skills to activate the helmet. Inside, their allies regain their powers, specifically Hui and the Large Man, who confront Xiang but are defeated nonetheless. Following this, Imo faces Xiang, who wounds him severely. However, thanks to Zhang's magic, the protagonist survives because it turns out to be a clone of himself. Taking advantage of the distraction, Imo saves Hong. However, Xiang uses his powers to send them to another location. There, he reveals his intention to alter history but needs the power that Imo possesses, reminding him of the moment when the protagonist was sent to another dimensional plane and saw many green stones. When Imo questions what Xiang hopes to gain from this, Xiang states that he wants to continue his conquest of rival kingdoms. Upon hearing this, Imo wants to know what happened to his brother after his burial. Xiang tells him he does not know, as after turning Imo into a statue, Tai disappeared and nothing more was heard of him. Even his wife was left in the dark and had to take responsibility, resulting in the destruction of their home. Xiang then reveals that the helmet and the special armor that started it all were created by Tai. Despite praising him, Xiang insults Tai, claiming that the Imo family lets their women handle their affairs, which angers the protagonist. The duel then begins, with Xiang dominating. Just when it seems like the protagonist is losing, his allies appear to help him get back on his feet. This initiates the second round, taking place within those green crystals. All this causes chaos in reality, as the helmet Hong saw at the beginning connects both worlds. Meanwhile, Bai, who is trying to harness the power of the object, realizes that Xiang is weakening. Back in the duel, Mo is mortally wounded, but his opponent realizes that the elixir Tai made actually worked. Subsequently, Xiang moves to attack Hong, but Mo finds strength from nowhere and stops him, eliminating him in the process. This causes the entire place to start collapsing, prompting all of the protagonist's allies to escape through the portal Xiang used to arrive. The last to leave are Hong and Imo. However, he notices that Tang is being possessed by a spirit, so he decides to stay behind, pushing Hong to leave. Thus, the protagonist faces a new being with dark energy. And that concludes the summary. If you liked it, comment statue in the comments box so we know you made it to the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, give us a like, and see you in the next video.